I'll rise and pledge the flag. Moment of silence first. Let's do that. Vice Mayor.
Pledge allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the
United States of
America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. All right. For the purposes of tonight's workshop, what our main goal is to go through what the Charter Review Board has recommended for us to vote on from the dais to have put on the ballot for the November elections. All of these things on the charter have to be approved by the residents, okay? We're not voting on anything tonight, but what we're doing is trying to get a consensus so that the city attorney can write out how it will look to go on the ballot. If he can sit here and count to three and sees at least three people have no desire to put it on, I don't think he's going to waste his time. We have the chair, Joyce Bryan, thank you. If anybody has a question as to why they wanted to put it on, what their logic was behind it, she can pretty much answer it. They've got a couple other board members as well. But for the most part, we're going to go through and see what we're going to have.
What's the deadline, I think, for these?
I believe it's April. Is the deadline? June or June?
June.
June is the deadline.
June. When in June?
It's the last day of qualifying,
Oh, okay.
which I believe is the 10th?
Yeah.
Somewhere around.
Yeah, somewhere around.
This question, do we have this format like this on here?
You should have this. They don't have this in hard copy.
They should. If you go into Granicus and go into the
Oh,
workshop,
Granicus, okay, because they said it was in my Dropbox.
Or we have.
yeah, we put that in there at your request. It's in the Dropbox as well, but it's
Yeah.
also in Granicus.
But isn't it also in hard copy if people want it?
That is correct. It's in hard copy on the table.
Okay.
Where?
No, all I've got, I think, is that it? The middle one? That's the hard copy. Anyone the hard copy?
No, I have it.
That's fine.
Tommy got hard copy.
Which one are we going to follow?
Which one?
Attachment one.
Attachment 1 or attachment 2?
I'm gonna go through attachment 2 because
All right.
it's the Reader's Digest version and.
Where is it? Is that on here also?
Yes.
It's around page 50 or 55.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Right there.
That'll work for me.
The attachment is the Reader's Digest version. I'm also going to tell you, for the purpose of this part of the meeting, okay. When we get to section 4.05, the removal or discharge of the city manager, we're not going to be discussing this during this part of the workshop because it was never voted on by the Charter Review Board. If someone wants to bring it up after we're done with the Charter Review Board's recommendations, that's fine, but it was never voted on by the Charter Review Board. We're going to only vote on what was voted on. A lot of these are housekeeping things, which is basically changing the language, changing some of the wording, because back when this was first written, we didn't have technology like email and things like that. So, section number 1, throughout the charter, we're going to change, with their recommendation is to change the language to be gender neutral throughout the whole charter. Does anybody have problems with that or questions? Okay. And I believe, and Gene, I'm not 100% sure, but we talked, a lot of these can be put on as one question.
Well, technically, we could put everything on one question. So if you want me to break out a specific question, that would be good too, if you told me.
Okay. Well, no, I'm just, a lot of the housekeeping ones I think should just be on one question. That's my opinion, and
Okay.
there are some that are going to go on here that should be separate questions so people don't get confused.
And I'd like you to bring that to my attention.
Okay. I did it.
No, I mean, which ones you'd like.
Oh, yeah, we will. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Madam Mayor, just wanted to make a point that we needed 4 votes for something to be recommended by us. So when that is appropriate, they will see that also in the recommendations.
Right.
Okay, if it's not applicable, they will note that also.
Right.
Okay?
Okay, good, thank you. Throughout the charter, to remove obsolete language, these are the words that have specific dates when we changed the elections mostly. When we changed the elections, we had a very lengthy part on the charter about who did what.
Someone brought up that there was a Scrivener's error,
Yes,
that it
there
should be
is.
3 and 5 rather
Yes.
than 4 and 5, which is fine.
Yes,
Okay.
okay. Did anybody have problems with that? Okay. Throughout the charter, motion to capitalize city, this is how bad these were back then, we didn't have capital letters. To capitalize city commissioner, city commission, city manager, and city clerk. Again, they weren't capitalized in the original. Anybody have a problem with that?
Why?
Why what?
Why capitalize?
Because it's generally grammatically correct.
Capitalize, not the whole word, just the first letter.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, when you said capitalize, yeah.
Well, that's because it's written all capital.
Yeah, because it is all capitals, yes.
Anybody have a problem with that, issue with that? Section 2.01, corporate limits. That's something I don't think that, Joyce, you guys really weren't able to change anything in there?
No.
There was no shortcut to do it.
Okay.
It just wasn't possible, wasn't feasible.
So why does that have to go on the ballot?
It doesn't. If we're not changing it, it doesn't. It was just a motion that was made.
Oh, okay,
And
all
just
right.
looked into it.
All right, so the corporate thing, and again, that's the first 20 pages, the first section of the charter, we can't do anything really about, so it won't go on the ballot.
Question,
Yes.
Yeah.
when did they last define our boundaries?
Probably mid-80s, 86, 87. I think that's when we, there was a development, I forget which one it was, between Coconut Creek and Margate. Half was in Coconut Creek.
Right.
In fact, it even went through
So
some
the lake
houses.
over there,
Right, I think it was then.
got it, okay. So it's pretty accurate up to date.
Oh, yeah, I mean, Margate really hasn't had any annexations.
No, I guess I'm just talking about legal boundaries, you know, with the new electronics that they have to measure things and so forth and so on.
Well, it usually won't,
Make much difference.
it just wouldn't change unless we specifically, you know, if you asked surveyors to, and it would cost quite a bit of money to do it,
No problem.
so it hasn't been done.
Okay, section 301, the city commission powers, composition, and committee recommendations. Again, they approved to leave it the same that it is, so it would not go on the ballot unless anyone wants to discuss it during our second section. Section 302, qualifications of commissioners. That one, they did change from 6 months to 12 months for the residency to qualify as a candidate for proof of residency, being the voter's registration card or something that said they voted in Margate. Anybody have issues with that?
No, I actually think it was a good recommendation, because I think the longer you've been in the city, the more you know about the city. And so if you've been here a year, you know more about the city than if you've been here just 6
Well,
months.
let me tell you two things. Number one, most cities in the county have a year, except that there are some federal cases that say that anything over 6 months could be a problem. So I just wanted to make sure the commission understands it.
Yeah.
And we took that into consideration.
Yeah, right, and I had told the charter committee that they still voted, so.
And if it doesn't pass for 12 months, it just goes back to the 6
Yeah,
month
if
thing.
it's,
So,
if it was stricken, it would just go back to 6 months.
so if the voters don't want 12 months, then it'll go back to the 6 months. Okay. Section 302, qualifications of commissioners. To amend section 302 as in the summary, and that is, service of list of full term as a result of resignation of public trust. Okay,
Oh, it's clarifying, essentially, in light of what had happened, there was a case in Miami, and of course we have a commissioner who was suspended. We wanted to clarify that if it needed clarification, and to make it specific that any time of suspension anytime, you know, if there's removal or forfeiture, that
Counts
if the
towards
person gets reelected, that counts as a full term,
Right, okay, so,
towards any term limit.
so if, let's say we have a commissioner that's suspended, and they get put back on,
Well, let's say they don't. Let's say they don't get put back on, and they get reelected, and there's a 3-term limit.
right,
That first one, even though that commissioner didn't serve the full term,
counts as.
that counts as a
Full
full term.
Because those seats went into effect in 2014 for the term limit, so
Right.
if that particular seat was on the 2014, and he gets put on the day after, before the election or whatever, that's considered his term, even though he wasn't here. I like that idea.
So basically, if you win the seat, that's your term? I mean, that starts your term no matter what happens after, right?
No, yours, no, well,
If you win the seat and you take a seat,
You take a seat,
if the next day you get suspended,
that's your term.
That's-
that
Starts
counts
your-
as one
4
term.
years.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
yeah,
Or you resign the next day, okay, move away, and then come back, it counts as one term. So if there's a 3-term limit, you serve one day, that's
that's
your
part of your
term.
first, that's part of your.
Question.
Yeah.
You know, anything's possible, obviously. Commissioner gets elected, 2 days later, in a bad accident, has to resign. Not through no fault of his own, to do anything wrong,
That's a full term.
they're still gonna get penalized for that, correct?
Penalized.
Well, in other words, that's a full term. It's too bad you got in an accident, so you had to resign, and that was your term.
That's right.
Now,
Now,
would that hold-
if you
would that-
resign, that's it, right?
Okay, let's say that you don't resign, but then you have attendance things you have to, wasn't that addressed in the chart?
Yeah, but
But then you
that-
could be removed.
That's not a forfeiture of office, if we go
Okay.
by this.
All right,
That's not, and there's always, the commission has the ability
good.
to allow grace for those kind of emergency type things. We'll get, when we get to that. All right, so, anybody have a problem with that going on the ballot? Gene, you're really gonna, if you could, really kind of clarify this so that the residents understand what this part is gonna
You know, again, do you want this in, I would think that you probably would want the next, let's see, the last one, 302, 302, and 302A, in one ballot issue.
Because there would have to do with qualifications.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right, yeah, that way they'll understand that it has to do with that. Section 302, qualifications of commissioners, to amend 302 from any qualified Broward County elector to any qualified Margate elector. Again, it proves that you live in the city. And we won't have people who are living in garages and, you know, actually have their voting in Palm Beach.
Well,
Been done.
it'll help cut down on
Yeah.
that. You can't.
All right, anybody have a problem with that going on? Okay. Section 302, term limits. To amend from 3 consecutive terms to 2 consecutive terms. That would not include any terms served prior to 2014 election. I'm going to read into the record because Commissioner Donahue's not here. I'm also going to hand these out. He does have a comment on this, and he would like it to be stated that he does not agree with changing the term limits. That is his opinion. You guys want one of these? No? Gene, you want one of these?
No,
That's his opinion. So anybody else have opinions
Yeah.
besides me until I get
Yes.
find my backup?
I do. A couple of years ago, a few years ago, we brought this before the voters, and they overwhelmingly supported
Yes.
3 terms. So, why do you want to change it again? I mean, the voters said, okay, yeah, 3 terms is it. They voted for that. Now you want to make it 2 terms.
Why?
Yeah.
Well, we felt that be able to give other people opportunities was one of our thoughts. Give new people an opportunity to be able to run. And we've had 2 term limits let me move on, let somebody else get the opportunity to run, because it's that way, 4 years, you're talking about 12 years. That was one of our recommendations in one of our thinkings.
Because that's what came up before, that's why they said they wanted to change it to
Right, now,
3 terms.
now,
understand, the 3 terms was basically the same as the county. They have 3 terms.
Right, and I'll give you the status on this. On January 19th, 2011, we had put on the ballot asking for 3 4-year terms. 87% voted for 3 4-year terms. I have an issue with, we've just asked the residents for term limits. The only person at this table at the moment that falls under those term limits, I think, still have to double check with Gene, but I'm pretty sure, is Frank. Commissioner Rosano came on in November, so I think that's considered a partial term. Okay, so we haven't even tried this yet to find out if it works or fails. The people voted for it, and now, to me, we're saying, well, you voted for it, but hey, a few of us don't like it, so let's throw it out.
Well, remember, this is
Right.
recommendation.
I understand that, that's why I'm, discussing it. Again, government moves slowly. We know government works slowly. It will take you your probably first 4 years to make any headway. The second 4 years, if you're lucky enough to get reelected, and again, term limits are when the voters vote you out, basically. But we went from a city that had 0 term limits to at least having term limits, and I think that was for the better. So I myself, and will put Commissioner Donahue, I'm not in favor of putting this on the ballot. I'd like to see us go through it at least once to see if it's a problem. I know there was talk about, well, there's this loophole, there's this. I ain't got time to worry about what's gonna happen 12 years from now. But I don't believe that we've even given the residents to say, we tried it, it didn't work. We just said, you voted for it, we don't like it, we're gonna change it. So, I'm not going to be, my consensus will be, I won't be having it on the ballot.
Same here.
Okay, so there's another.
I don't particularly care for it to be on the ballot, and my reason being is that I think if you are doing a good job for the residents, why are you being forced out? If you're doing good things and you're moving the city forward, why stop you after 8 years? Give you another 4 years to continue the momentum that you have already started. So-
Okay, I'm gonna put another, I'm gonna play
And
the
I think
devil's
it's up-
advocate here.
I think it's up
I'm
to-
just playing the devil's
Okay,
advocate.
but wait, let me finish, please. I think it's up to the residents to do their homework and see who is not doing their job as commissioner, and for the residents to vote that person out if they're not doing their job.
The fact that we say, okay, 4 years is a growth process, we're just getting enough information. The second 4 years, we're finally getting an idea of what happens. Then the next 4 years, well, okay, I got a handle on this, now I can do my job. Well, if you put that in rationale, we've got the President of the United States, he gets 2 terms and he's out, so should we, so that's just our, but I'm not gonna debate the point, that's just my rationale. I have nothing else to say about it, just
No, I
giving you
understand.
feedback,
I
so.
understand why,
Okay?
why it was wanting to be on
So-
there.
Not a problem, it's the recommendation, you guys go with your feeling. You're good.
You had thoughts? Mixed thoughts?
Honestly, since I'm sitting here,
Yeah.
I'm an honest guy. But Joyce, I've taken what you said into respect, but also, if someone is doing good in their second term, I think they can continue to go on to the third term, so.
So be it.
Yeah, I also, I just out of understanding the politics, I'm not sure if term limits were put on the ballot to have or not have term limits, I'm not sure term limits would pass this time.
Not every city has term limits already.
No, they do not. No, and we needed term limits. We needed term limits. Yes, because you can only get so many of those hammers for being the mayor throughout the years. But I'm just politically thinking, I don't think the term limits would pass in my opinion. But, again, okay, so, Gene, we have a consensus on that.
Okay.
All right. Section 3.03, removal of a city commissioner. To have the city attorney draft language on the specific procedures for removal of a city commissioner. They voted 5-0. Do you have specific
Yeah,
language
I think it's in your attachment.
in our longer package?
Yeah.
Let's see.
And it's nothing more than, well, there has to be notice, there has to be
A hearing.
a hearing.
Right.
It just basically provides for that. It doesn't change the reasons that's already in the charter, but it just gives the procedure how it's done.
I think one of the confusing things with what the way the charter had read was it said there was that the person being asked to leave was allowed a hearing, and nobody really understood it was a hearing of the commission, not a hearing before a judge in a court and things like that. And I think that, isn't that what you clarified, that it was
Yeah, well, I certainly put that.
yeah. Oh, there it is. Page,
There are no pages.
311.
Oh, it's in 311?
Yeah. I don't know why it just says 303 on here, but it's 311.
Which one is, this is with,
This is with, under the committee, yeah, that's really the attachment to. I'll read what they've got here. It says, the city commission shall be the judge of the grounds
Constituting.
constituting, that does not look good,
You want me to read it?
no.
Okay.
A forfeiture of a member's office. Any one member of the city commission shall have the power to charge any other member with grounds which, if found to exist, would constitute a forfeiture of office. If a charge is made against a city commissioner, the aforementioned, go ahead, Gene.
As aforementioned, immediately after said charge has been made, the city commission shall vote to determine whether or not probable cause exists that a member has committed acts which, if found to exist, would constitute a forfeiture of office. 3 affirmative votes shall be necessary to find said probable cause exists.
Okay, hold on 1 second. So before you can even ask for a hearing, or he can ask for a hearing, or she can ask for a hearing, 3 out of the 5 have to say, yes, we believe there's probable cause.
Right.
Okay?
Then it goes on, a member so charged with conduct constituting grounds for forfeiture of his or her office shall, upon demand by the charged member, be entitled to a public hearing. If they ask for a public hearing, they get a public hearing. However, such public hearing shall not take place less than 10 days, nor more than 20 days from the date of the charge, exclusive of the charging date. That's pretty standard. Further notice of such public hearing shall be published by the city in 1 or more newspapers of general circulation in the city at least 1 time and at least 1 week prior to the aforementioned public hearing. Nothing contained herein shall prevent a charged member from resigning at any time from the date charged up to the time of the aforementioned hearing, and if the charged member elects to resign, then the city commission shall not be required to conduct a public hearing. In the event that a hearing shall be demanded by the charged member, the city attorney shall act as advisor to the city commission, or the city attorney shall present all evidence and other pertinent information relating to the charge to the city commission. The city attorney may not both prosecute and advise the city commission. The city commission shall appoint special counsel. Actually, it should say the city attorney may appoint special counsel to prosecute the charge of forfeiture or advise the city commission. The charged member shall be, either one. The charged member shall be entitled to be represented at the hearing by an attorney of his or her choice and at his or her own expense. In the conduct of public hearing, provided herein, the rules of evidence shall not be strictly followed. At the conclusion of the hearing, as hearing provided, the affirmative vote of 3 city commissioners shall be necessary to find that grounds for forfeiture of office exist and that a member has forfeited his or her office. Upon 3 affirmative votes being cast, as aforementioned, the office shall immediately become vacant. The charged member shall be given the opportunity prior to hearing to examine all evidence to be presented against him or her. At the hearing shall be entitled to examine and or cross-examine witnesses. For the purpose above stated, the city commission shall have the power to subpoena witnesses and administer oaths, require the production of evidence, and upon request by a charge member, the city commission shall exercise subpoena powers for the purpose of compelling the appearance of witnesses in defense of the charged city commission member.
Okay.
There you go.
Again, Reader's Digest version, it sets in place what has to be done, and the forfeiture of office is specific as far as breaking an ethics rule of conduct. With the
Not having the qualifications
Right.
of office to run that initially they had, and and being convicted of a felony.
Connie, you want to move over there?
What's that?
You want to move over there?
You want to move over there?
I know, I'm asking
Sun,
you,
the
you
light's
look,
on.
the sun's in your eyes.
Yes, that's okay.
Question. Gene, is this a quasi judicial hearing you would have?
No, technically, believe it or not, one of the interesting things about the law, you would think it would be a quasi-judicial determination, but every federal case that I've read, this is a legislative function because Congress and the legislature has the right to expel or suspend their own members. And don't forget, we've got, going back to constitutional law, we've got 3 branches of government, and one branch can't intrude on the other. So if Congress expels a member, the Supreme Court can't say, well, no, you didn't do it right. This is a legislative matter, and only the legislature can make that determination. Now, could a court eventually say, well, you didn't give him basic due process under the Constitution? They might be able to say that. But for the grounds and for the process, as long as there's basic due process, it's a legislative function.
Can they have counsel represent them?
Oh, absolutely. And this provides that's the case.
Right.
That would be a violation of fundamental due process if they were not allowed to have their own counsel.
But the city commission does not need to have outside counsel unless we absolutely felt that it was necessary.
Right, but then you would, that's also part of fundamental due process. I cannot both prosecute, someone else would have to prosecute,
But we're,
and advise the city commission, if you needed advice.
yeah, because see, the word prosecute, I'm having an issue with the word prosecute. It isn't prosecuting, we're not prosecuting somebody. We're
Well-
having a hearing.
Well, you are in the sense that even a civil violation, even a civil case, a plaintiff who sues who sues for damages is technically prosecuting for damages. So I'm using the word in a very legal sense, not in a criminal sense.
Okay. But we wouldn't have, if there was enough evidence against the person that the
As I
commission
said,
did not feel like they needed a outside, we would not have to hire an outside, is what
no,
I'm-
not necessarily. You're absolutely right. I mean, if, for instance, if someone were convicted of a felony,
Well,
the
that's
only thing
automatic.
you and I have discussed this, the only
automatic.
thing you would need is a certified copy that they were convicted and say, the city rests. And that's it.
Correct.
And then the person would get up and say, well, there was this extenuating circumstance, there was this.
Well, the felony is not a good one because you can't be a commissioner and be a felon in Florida.
Okay,
Let's use this. If there's an ethics violation.
Okay.
As what I'm understanding, the OIG has the ethics violation, which takes them forever,
right.
against the commissioner, then we can, no, not you.
I do.
No, not you. If there is an ethics violation that the OIG has said, and it's brought before the commission and they say, you know, actually you've got 3 ethics violations, that's the evidence for the commission.
No, no.
The outcome of that-
No. The IG would have to go before a hearing officer.
I-
And if the hearing officer agrees with the IG,
That's what I've said.
well, I didn't hear the,
I said, which takes months and months.
Yes.
The outcome of that is what we have as
right,
our.
and you would just
as
get a
our
certified
evidence.
copy of that,
Right.
if it's not being appealed, okay? And then you just, there's the evidence right there.
Okay, but Now, let's go but here, because I'm not real thrilled with the speed the OIG works
Right.
on their
Right.
crap. But it isn't necessary for us to have that OIG as ethics as evidence.
Right.
If we can prove in other forms
If
that an ethics violation, that so a crime was committed or one of those things,
Yes.
that is the evidence that we would present
Yes.
to the commission.
Now, that you may need a separate attorney for that.
Okay.
Because you would have to call witnesses, because it's not found by the IG or the Ethics Commission or the federal court. You would have to prove it right here. His hearing would be here
Right.
for all of the witnesses, and after all that's done, as long as there's competent evidence, and the city commission says, well, we think that person, took a bribe.
Oh, okay, how about that one? Let's use that one.
And no one had, the federal, nor the state, nor anyone, but the city commission's attorney proved to the city commission, or at least the city commission felt that way, that that person had taken a bribe. Then it doesn't matter if he's ever criminally indicted, it's what the city commission believes.
Okay.
Is there an appeal process?
No, what there is would be what's called a certiorari. It would, no, I take it back, because this is a legislative matter. The only thing you could do, basically, was to sue for civil rights violation, that they were denied due process, that they didn't have the right to hire an attorney, that there was not competent substantial evidence, and you'd have to bring it as a new
So
lawsuit.
it's pretty much final.
Yeah.
It's final, it's
But they
not
can
an
run
appeal.
again.
Yeah.
Oh, they can
Oh,
run it.
they could, for a new term, they could run again.
But they can't appeal.
Right.
Yes.
All right, so,
I see the pros and the cons of this, but the thing that I'm not happy with is, I have something going on with me right now about a fire truck, and if something happens over this, I could be removed because of this.
well, no. And then I'll tell you why, no, okay? A fire truck is not an offense that the commission, I believe that you could get 3 votes for the commission to even go forward with the process.
Yeah, but believing and
No,
knowing.
you don't understand, neither of you do. This just puts, this doesn't change the grounds. Whether we adopt this or we don't adopt this, if we don't adopt this, we've got to do it anyway, because the grounds are in the present charter. You would have to take those grounds out of the charter. This is just the procedure for those grounds which are already in the charter.
But, Gene, you don't understand. The city commission is a city commissioner.
Either way,
I don't even know what I'm going to say either way.
it is the city commission who makes this determination whether you adopt this or not. It would have to be adopted by resolution or by ordinance, something similar to this.
Okay, Commissioner Antonio, my understanding of this particular one, which I believe we could have used way back when, however, the city commission, one commissioner, 2 commissioners, however, has to convince 3 commissioners that they believe that the ethics violation is worthy of forfeiture of office, okay? A fire truck, as opposed to taking a bribe, defrauding the CRA and other things that are out there, okay, are 2 different things. Okay, so could you be removed from office for a fire truck? Yes. Yes, you could. It won't change whether we put this on the ballot or not.
I understand.
The only thing that it does change is it explains that whereas before when this had come up, and the advice from the city attorney was that the commissioner was entitled to a hearing, probably 3/5 of the commission thought that hearing was before the judge, not before the commission. That's really the only change in here. Okay.
But we're voting on whether to put this on. See, my belief in business is you hire, you fire. We didn't hire each other. The people hired us. So if they want to get rid of us, they can get rid of us
But the
in
charter,
multiple ways.
but the charter gives the commission, through a vote, because that went out for a vote to become the charter.
I understand.
The people gave the commission that ability to govern themselves.
Right, so
And
Tom,
we have the ability to remove that, don't, isn't that what we're voting on?
You know, we're not on this point. If you want to bring that up,
you'd have
when
to, you would have to make a motion to remove the grounds for forfeiture of a commissioner from the charter. We've had that in the charter since 1982. So that would be a separate motion.
and that would be after we finish with the charter review.
Because
and
even
we'll
if,
listen.
because here's what I'm saying.
I'm trying not to get off on tangents, Gene, so we can get through
Right.
this stuff.
But again, even if this was not put on the ballot, if this commission, by a majority vote, decided to move ahead with forfeiture, we would basically have to do this procedure or something very similar to it anyway. Even, this just clarifies it in the charter. We
This
would-
clarifies what a hearing is in the charter, basically.
Can we amend, change it to 4 votes?
Truthfully, and you can make that suggestion, and I'll make the argument that you give 2 people power. 2 people now become a majority. When it's a 4-1 vote, you've given 2 people the majority.
I understand, but if you were sitting in my seat, you see what I'm talking about.
Well, you immediately
Commissioner,
got
wait.
one person who brought the
Jane,
charge.
Jane,
Sorry.
thank you. Commissioner, we all sit in your seat.
I know.
Every one of us sit in your seat. Every one of us have to follow the ethics, okay?
I agree with you.
Every one of us have to be accountable for the rest of the commission. So the only seat you're sitting in is that you have, and then I will give my expert opinion, but it's not relevant at the moment, but you have an ethics violation. Is that an ethics violation outcome? And again, it's not an outcome. It isn't an outcome until they say, we find there's reason, now we take you to civil court, you fight it in civil court, and then they say, if they win, that's the ethics violation, okay? Pulling somebody for an ethics violation is not the easiest thing for a commissioner to do, contrary to what some people think. It is not. It requires a lot of background work, a lot of heavy thought, trying to figure out if it's worth it, okay? A fire truck, to me, in my opinion, is
Well,
not worth
that's
it.
only one violation.
Again, are you talking about the, because I can throw this out for you. Are you talking about the executive meeting issue?
Correct.
Okay? That was already handled by the city commission.
But not the OIG.
Doesn't matter. It was handled by the city commission.
But it can't come back.
No, it can't. Well, in my opinion, no, it can't. We dealt with that. That's my opinion. Okay? It was already dealt with, and in the experience that I've had with the OIG and ethics violations and things like that, okay, which is very simple. The reason the OIG did not investigate Commissioner McLean on the fact of his credit card abuse, okay, and his abuse of power was because the city commission sat up there and publicly censured him. Because they did that, the OIG said, you have governed yourself basically, and we're done. We're not doing anything, okay? Because we had a meeting for it, all right? And again, I'll tell you my opinion, nothing was done. So I don't know if that's gonna be covered or not. In my personal opinion, the city commissioner dealt with the issue, and it's over and done. We move on. That's what public censure does, do.
Okay.
Okay? You get 3 other commissioners up here that want to hang out to try that. It's according to the law. But to have, what you're saying is to have the people remove you. How would you suggest that?
I thought there was a way where they can take 10% of the voters that year.
Oh, a recall.
Yeah,
How'd that work
is
with
what it
David?
is? Was it done with David? I don't
No.
know. Oh, so no.
And understand this, the city commission can still, anything that the people want to put on, the city commission can still veto those things, okay? A judge can veto those things. All right, this, at some point, and this is the problem that we have with government, is we have government that does not govern themselves. And that's why things run amok. You have government that governs themselves by the ethics violations, by the procedures, okay? Let's say that somebody says, we want to forfeit the office, you to forfeit the office because of bribery, okay? And you don't get the 3 votes, but you get a commissioner that says, well, I don't want him to forfeit the office, but I want him to be publicly censored. And that gets the 3 votes. That's them governing, okay? It takes 3 to do anything in the city, okay? For 4 people, you have 2 people that are the power. Now you've made 2 people the majority, okay? And in my reality, 2 people are not the majority. This city's run on 3-2 votes forever. And you look inquisitive, but it is.
So there's no supermajority for anything?
In this city,
Right
no,
now,
but
right now.
in this city, no. But if you want to throw something out on a supermajority, you know, you certainly have that ability. I mean, if you want to add that into this particular, this is where it would be.
Sure, I'd like to add it. I don't know if it'll fly, but I'd like to add it.
Add it, okay. So we've got a suggestion for a 4-1 vote for the
Removal.
removal of office, which is still a 3-2 vote. You do know why, don't you? Okay, because if I say we're going to do it, that's 1 yes. If you say no, that's 2. So it's 1-1 there automatically. You still need, okay, so, Commissioner,
No, I leave it, I don't worry too much about it.
uh,
I really don't, just from past history and so on.
that's why we're putting these in past.
No, I'm talking about
Yeah, the majority.
majority, yeah.
Commissioner Simone, Vice Mayor Simone.
I'm comfortable with the 3-2.
Okay. And again,
I don't, I don't want you to poll Tom, and I'll tell you why, because there could be an ethics issue here because it may relate to his private business. He's already discussed it, that's not a problem, but asking him whether he's in favor or not, is not something I recommend you do.
we don't need to ask him, he suggested it, and we can count to 3. 1, 2, 3.
Okay.
Um,
All right, then
Yeah,
let's
that's-
move on.
okay. So that's going on, it's going on the ballot with the rewording, right? Okay. Section 3.04, election and terms, should have the city attorney draft a simplified version of section 304 as recommended by the city commission. What this basically does is take out all the gobbledygook that we had to put in to change our elections to November. Now that they're changed to November, it's not necessary for them to be, for that to be in there. It again is just
And it's
housekeeping.
It's in the chart.
Anybody have a problem with that?
Is this one with the seats? With the,
Yeah, the seats,
Yeah,
we'll
he's-
change the seat numbers.
Yeah,
It's 3 and 5, not 4 and 5.
right,
so I'm not running this year?
no. Unless you want to, you can run if you want to.
Maybe so, huh?
Section 305, the oath of office.
Wait, what do you mean I can't run? I can't remember 2 seats.
Just resign.
You'd have
Oh,
to resign. Which is covered under the other thing. Section 305, oath of office, to amend it as recommended by the city clerk. Because we had on the original charter, it stated before entering
Right, it should say
the
before.
duty, before entering upon the duties,
Right.
and it should say upon entering the duties.
It's
We had-
housekeeping.
Yeah, it's again, housekeeping, and we've had 6 commissioners at one point legally. Because of having to be sworn in beforehand while we still had commissioners, so that's, anybody have a problem with that? Both of you?
Yeah.
Yeah, both of you. Anybody have a problem with that? No, okay. 306, compensation and expenses, all right. The only change on this, if I'm reading it
Wait,
correctly,
you missed one. You missed 306.
That's where we're on.
that's the oath of office.
We did that.
I'm doing 306, compensation and expenses.
Okay.
Okay.
There was 2 of them.
Yeah. Okay. The only change in here, I believe, is the suggestion that what used to be on here was if you missed 4 meetings, you would forfeit your office. However, that particular, no,
No, if you didn't tell the clerk.
I'm just getting there.
Oh, okay.
I get there just a different way than you do, okay?
Okay.
However, the reason that it had no teeth was because it basically said if you told the city clerk. The issue is that is you could have 54 excused meetings and there was no accountability, there was no consequences. What this basically is you can miss 4 meetings, approved meetings, and I assume everybody's gonna call the city clerk. You can miss 4. After that 4th, then,
A year.
right. After that 4th, then you get docked, basically, for lack of a better word. You get docked, and he's got 1/24 of the salary. Because according to the charter, our job is to attend 2 meetings a month for a commissioner. And if we're not attending those meetings, then we're taking the residents' money under false pretense. So you get 4 excused. After the 5th, or on the 5th, you get docked. This is per year.
Calendar year, fiscal year?
That's all
Yeah,
right.
it's fiscal year.
Fiscal year?
It's in there.
Okay.
But we still have a way to, somebody's sick
Yes,
or
it
something
is,
like that.
again,
Yes.
the good cause clause is in here, that the commission governs themselves, again. If you have a heart attack, you're gonna be off probably more than 4 meetings, or something like that, okay? But if you call up, and you're sick with the flu or the whatever for 8 meetings in a row,
Well, if you have cancer, or I mean, there's.
well, no, we're talking good cause, not good cause. Good cause is the
Going to
flu.
Vegas.
Well, again, the legislature is the judge of this issue.
Governs themselves, yes.
The city commission.
So does anybody have a problem with this? No. Okay. Put them in the pocketbook, that's what counts. Section 306 compensation, the motion. To amend 306 compensation and expenses, the commission may determine the annual salary of commission as part of the adopted budget of the city.
Yeah, actually, this is.
Oh, this is where the people vote on the salary or don't, or
Yeah,
the commission?
and this would, the motion was to keep it the way it is.
Okay,
Right.
keep it the way it is. It can be brought up at budget time. Any commission salary raise can be brought up at budget time, as opposed to what it was. Okay, mayor and vice mayor. Electing the mayor and vice mayor shall be noticed city commission meeting within a month of November. Where there is an election for commission of the month of November, it would be subsequent to the certification the certified election result, or as soon as practical thereafter, okay? What this does is that it takes, because, and I will give you the instance, there was an issue where we had a vote for a mayor and a vice mayor. No, on the dais. And I personally believe that Robert's rules won, so I had to vote in favor of it to bring it back. But because we had in our charter the specific date that we picked the mayor and vice mayor, Robert's rules didn't win. Okay? So this just takes out the specific date. It's at some point in November that we will have the election. But it takes out the second Thursday or second Wednesday or the third Wednesday or whatever. Gives a little bit of breathing room in case we have that kind of an issue again. Anybody have a problem with that?
Does it still address the 1 year deal or 2 years? 'Cause
They
It limits it to 1 year.
it will-
no, it did not. No, it did not. They did not change it.
Oh, they
They
didn't
left
change
it
that?
2 years
Ah,
because
okay.
of, they left it 2 years because
Okay.
it was needed at one point in the city.
yeah.
And and we think for the past and the future, again, it's a 3-vote thing but it came in handy for us. I believe it still says 2 years it still says in the main body of it, Gene.
Okay.
okay? And the reason for 2 years is if we have a
You're right,
situation like
yes.
we had before where we really didn't want to make that person mayor, but the next possible was somebody who had only been up there for like 5 minutes. All right.
Narrows it down to a few.
Huh? Okay, section 309, city departments. To accept recommendations as written in the executive summary for section 309. This gives the city manager more ability to dissolve, to create departments. The only ones that they can't are the city clerk and the city attorneys, because those are under the city commission.
And consolidate also.
And you can also consolidate.
I want to bring up another topic, but what exactly does the civil service board do if they're not?
We're getting there.
We'll get there.
Oh, okay.
We'll
We're
get
gonna
there.
get there. All right.
We'll get there. But that's not in this section, but this gives him the ability, the city manager, him or her, or whoever, the ability to change things. more.
Streamline things.
So if anybody have a problem with that?
The streamline without ordinance having to take place, which is no capability.
Any problems? No? Okay. Forfeiture of office?
We already discussed this. This is 311. There's no problem with
Okay, that's the same thing that we did. I don't know why I was on the other one either. Okay. Section 311, 3BI. Motion to amend, and this is what we're in, this situation we're in now. Vacancies to delete next general countywide and leave in regular scheduled city election. This is,
What is that?
what is this for is that the vacancy of David.
I know, but what is a regular city?
That's in
election?
November. That's ours. That would be a November election.
Yeah. But
it.
there's-
Which happens every 2 years.
Yeah, but there's no regular city, I mean, there's only the governors and the presidents, correct?
No, there's a
No.
primary.
Well,
That's the way the wording is, next general county. That's why the seat for David is in August as opposed to November.
So
Okay.
keep it the same?
No, we're
That's why
changing
Brian
it
is
to
running
the
it in
November.
August.
So they'll all be in November.
Right. So if that happens again, there would be, instead of an election August for Brian, the seat that Brian's holding, and then another election in November for the other 2 seats, there would be one election, and it would be cheaper for the 3 seats in November. Elections would only be in November, even where the commission appoints.
Every other November though, correct, or no?
Yeah, it would be every other, no, it would be every second year, right?
Second,
Yeah, it would be even years, right.
Okay.
And this was recommended by Phil Highland, and I think it's a good recommendation.
When it says it's deleting next general
Right.
countywide, now the primary is coming, that's not a general countywide,
But it's a countywide
but it's
election.
not a general, it's a
No,
primary.
but it
Doesn't
is
make
a
any difference.
Next general countywide or Margate election, that's the way it reads now. Look under notes, okay? Vacancies to read the terms off filled by appointment in section shall be until the next general countywide or regularly scheduled election, to remain in the unexpiring term, whichever comes first. However, the next general or countywide election is within 6 months of the, actually, a motion, this actually was superseded by Phil Highlander's motion, and it carried. And that is that it's the next regular city commission election.
No, I know, I'm just talking about the way it was with this thing. Primary and general, aren't those two different things?
That's right.
But it doesn't say general. I don't think the original says general.
The original said.
The next county.
General, countywide, or regularly scheduled city election. The primary is a countywide election.
Okay, so general, comma, countywide.
Yeah, but we're changing that.
Okay.
And we're
go
just
for now.
taking it for a regular city election.
Okay.
No, we're not paying anything now for August, are we?
No.
For that election?
No, well, we are
A little bit.
a little bit. We are a little bit.
Because we don't typically have a primary. We don't have an August election.
Right.
We only have a November election.
But it's the same time as a countywide election, So the fees are much less.
Okay. Anybody have problems with that? All right, that one goes. All right,
This is 312 is housekeeping.
312 is house, give them what it is. It's
Well, it
taking the
changes
words
the-
journal out and putting minutes, and again, we didn't have electronic stuff back in.
Right, and it gives
in
the
there.
clerk the right to keep records electronically.
Right. Same with, I believe, 317 is the same thing. It's taking the words journal out throughout the charter and put the words minute in there.
Right. It's housekeeping.
Okay. Section 309 did not pass. 318,
Is that the civil service board?
yeah, but we're going to discuss, we'll
Yeah,
discuss
it's
that after.
further on, we may discuss.
318, all right, is to approve amendment to section 318 as detailed in the memo from the city clerk and add the otherwise provided by law.
Yeah, in other words, our procedure requires something additional on top of what state statute requires. So we have to do it slightly different than state statute provides. We can simply eliminate that and just simply say that publication shall be as provided by state statute. It's again, a
Housekeeping.
housekeeping type situation.
Anybody have problems with those? Okay. All right, section 320. And again, isn't this the same housekeeping type thing? Because we needed to put other permanent format,
Yeah, that's housekeeping.
where we didn't, we probably did it on an 8-track,
Yeah.
whatever. Cassettes. All right, so that, no one has a problem with that? Our charter will be really small once we get these housekeeping things in here, out of there. All right, again,
Yeah,
more housekeeping,
right.
for the acceptable permanent record. Aren't some of these redundant? Can't they be all in one type?
Yeah, well, we'll put them all in one ballot issue. no
Okay,
doubt.
but couldn't they be in one, it's 302, does it have to be 302, 1, 2, and 3, or?
Well, it has to be, in the ordinance, it would have to change, specify exactly where these changes are made, but in the ballot issue, it would be one.
Okay. All right, the next item we're not gonna discuss till after we're done with the charter recommendations. 408, powers and duties of the city manager.
Actually, we went through this.
Yeah, that's, again, we got 2 sections that has the same thing on it. Is there a way to clean that up
Yes,
in the charter?
hold on one second, let's go back.
Section 408 powers must be deleted as it was already addressed in section 309. So we're just putting on the ballot to delete 408.
Yeah, again, it's housekeeping then.
Okay. Anybody have a problem with deleting that extra verbiage? Oh, contracts, 410.
Yeah, this is mentioned twice, we're deleting, oh, I'm sorry, the first one, right.
First one is raising the ability for the city manager from, his authority from 25,000 to 50,000. Okay? That does not need to go before the commission. Anybody have a problem with that?
That's a good question. Why?
City manager?
Well, several reasons. First of all, I think that it's, if you think about it, you hire a professional manager to try to move things along a little bit faster. And at the current time, it does take some time to bring faster commission. It moves government a little bit faster. If you're comfortable with that authority level, you have a manager who's a professional, supposed to be a professional business manager running the day-to-day operations of the government. They should have an authority to do that money. And there are several systems around it that do have a higher level. But it's more than anything, it's more about trying to move government a little bit faster, with the understanding that even doing that, the commission would be notified of those types of approvals like I do for her. So, but that's your comfort level.
I'm not big. big fan of $50,000, but I'm a huge fan of moving government faster. And it, you know, for them, when they have to come in, bring it to us, you know, for something like that.
Just remember,
There is accountability.
just remember, managers are governed by a very strong code of ethics. That's the bottom line to it. And that, you know, obviously you're gonna have a manager in a position, you have responsibility in that manager, and you've given that manager the authority to run the day-to-day operation. You should have also the confidence that they're gonna do the right thing. And if for some reason you believe they're not, you have recourse for that.
Well, I think my worry would be a Lauderdale Lakes issue of, you know, giving the bid to someone who is related or whatever.
Understand that
That would-
you
that would be
still
my-
can circumscribe this by ordinance.
I don't have a problem giving them more, again, anything to move government ahead. I do like the fact that you send it to us and tell us what you've done. And I think that will keep us informed. If, you know, if you're not city manager, I would assume the next city manager would keep us informed as well as to what they're spending, you know,
And you certainly,
$50,000
you
on.
could certainly pass an ordinance that says for anything between 25,000 and 50,000, the city manager has to notify the city commission.
But that would be, okay. great.
Question. Gene, when was the 25,000 passed?
1982.
1982, and this is 2014.
Yeah.
$25,000, we thought back then, oh, it's a lot of money, but they needed to get things going here. I mean,
I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah, I
if
don't
you
have
guys-
a
$50,000
problem
I
with
don't know
it.
if you guys received this. This was an extra piece of paper.
You said you would request me to get it
Yeah.
out.
I just
Okay.
wanted to, but it just shows the other cities and how much they're sitting at.
Yeah.
they're pretty close to that too.
And I'm gonna read into Brian's on this.
Thank
Uh,
We're gonna come back on the not to do the charter review members.
Commissioner Donahue would like to ask, how do we as the commission know what is going on in the city if these items are not before the commission for a vote, he asked. Will the commission be getting a report on what was approved if it did not go before the commission? And this is where you said we could do it as an ordinance, correct, Gene? That we could give him the ability of 50,000, and then we could pass an ordinance that between 25 and 50, he's gotta send us some sort of an email or something so we don't get blindsided.
Jerry, or Mr. Manager, give us an example right now of what we're talking about as far as a purchase goes or something.
You put something out to bid, you get back 3 bids. The bids could be up to $50,000. And the fact of the matter is, it's gonna go before, typically, we're gonna have a recommendation. You're gonna go for the low bidder, you're gonna go for the most qualified bidder. All those things are gonna come into play, in consideration. Now, we have to bring anything over 25,000 back to the commission, and the same discussion might take place. Whereas the city manager would have the authority and the responsibility to make the decision on which bidder would award that. And you would use the same philosophy based upon the most responsible bidder that provided the bid up to $50,000.
Thank you.
And quite honestly, I don't have a heartburn with this either way, except I'd just like to see things move a little bit faster. And you need to have a comfort level, which I think you should. And honestly, I think if you don't have that comfort level in a city manager, then that manager shouldn't be sitting in the seat.
Yeah.
And we have the ability to get rid of that city manager. Take a vote now.
Call the question, please. Can I weigh in on that?
No,
No. All right, so do anyone have a problem with putting up 50,000 to have it put on the ballot?
Yeah, and it's just being put on the ballot.
Right.
The people of the city. get to
Let me
vote.
ask a question, because I'm reading Coconut Creek is not in the charter, they do it by resolution.
Right.
If by chance this doesn't pass on the ballot,
Mhm.
and we could still do it by resolution?
No.
We could not do it
Because
by,
it's not in their charter.
oh, okay, you're right, you're right.
It
you're
would
right.
be in our charter.
It's in our charter, because we'll go back to the 25,000 in the charter,
Right.
if it doesn't pass, yeah.
Why don't take it out of the charter?
Well,
I was gonna say,
I was gonna ask the same question. Why not take it out of the charter?
You could.
That to me is like the civil service board. Because it's in the charter, we have to do it.
Right.
And if we need to up it, we
Yeah.
can.
Yeah.
We don't have to back out to
legal opinion on that? I mean, Coconut Creek doesn't have it in there. Just
Do whatever you'd like.
Is it in the chart?
We'd have to put it on the ballot.
Did you do this research? Who did this?
A little bit.
Okay, I'm just trying to find, is it in their charter? Coral Springs and North Lauderdale?
Our understanding is that it is.
It is in there? Okay, but Coconut Creek's is not.
Right. So there's nothing that says you have to put it in the charter. In other words, we would put on a ballot issue to take it out of the charter.
I'm liking that only because, again, it's like the Civil Service Board, because it's in the charter, we have to do it.
Yeah.
If it's not in the charter, if we can do it by resolution. It's a matter of holding a gun to your head or not holding a gun to your head. So if we took it out of the charter completely, then we obviously could pass it up to $50,000 as a resolution.
Or more.
Or more.
Or if they vote to keep it in and it stays at 25?
Yeah.
Yes.
But it's, again, holding a gun to your head. And we can't change it. We can't change it to $50,000. Like you said, this was passed in what, 80 whatever, 92. And a lot of things happen throughout the year. We can't change it because it's in our charter up to $25,000.
I'm just trying to think as an elector, sitting, going out there, seeing this come before me, okay, do I want to vote to take this out now, or vote to give them more money? And as he says, it's a,
Well, to me, it's-
Take it out,
Yeah,
maybe
yeah.
I think it's gonna look,
yeah, I don't know.
you know.
It's not gonna look good no matter what, because you're gonna say either
I'm
take.
trying to think which is the easiest way to do it.
I would say take it out.
What's the easiest way for
Wouldn't look at
the
it
city
going
to
take it
run?
out.
The easiest way for the city to run. And
Well,
I-
the best way, let me put it this way. It would be a lot more streamlined to do this either by ordinance or resolution, because you could, the city commission could change it,
At will.
not
Not
at a public hearing.
Yeah.
But with the times. In other words, depending upon the manager, depending upon the staff, you could raise it, you could lower it, you could do what's necessary to get business going, to, put some stops on the city manager, however you'd like to do it. Whereas the charter says,
You gotta do that.
right, and that's why it's not changed since 1982.
We have consensus to change this to remove from the charter? Gene?
Okay.
Remove? Instead of, and then we'll, right after this passes or whatever, we'll fix it by ordinance. Bids and purchases would be,
Actually, these are two separate issues, and the reason why, you just debated the second one. The first one says that all contracts have to go to the city commission. And what's the difference between legally, there's no difference between a purchase order and what a layman would call a contract. They're both contracts. So the first one actually was to make it coincide. So the bottom line is,
we remove both of them?
yeah, you would remove both.
So that would be the ballot question, to
Right.
remove that section. Okay.
Gee, how would that be worded on
I'd have to think about it. I would probably say that,
Remove section 410, contracts, 411, purchasing.
yeah, I would
From
put
the
in
charter
there,
to
or
be done
would
by
approved
resolution.
by resolution or by ordinance. I would probably say
that?
ordinance,
Yeah.
Don't get into it.
but I'll draft it up, and when you see the language, you
Okay.
either accept it or reject it.
All right, 412 emergencies, to amend section 412 emergency, to file notice of emergency contracts with the commission within a 24-hour period.
Right now, it requires a meeting. So he gets to do it, and then there has to be a commission meeting to then authorize it. He does it, and then after the fact, the commission authorizes. This way, he does it and he just notifies the city commission. If the commission have a problem with the emergency purchase, they can call the meeting. But otherwise, it just continues without
Anybody? Yeah. Anybody notice any problem with it? Move this city commission, move it. Okay. Acting city manager, to amend section 416, acting city manager, to delete the requirement for approval by commission for designating, and I've never understood why the commission has to approve when he goes on vacation who he's leaving. So this is really, is this just deleting this whole requirement?
Well, what it puts in there is, it simply says that the city manager gets to tell the commission by memo, and then if the
Thank you,
commission...
Joyce. You're welcome, good night.
Bye-bye, thank you.
And if the commission has any problem, they can call a meeting and say, we don't like this guy, or let's discuss it, or whatever.
Okay. Anybody have a problem with that? Contracts, notice to remove section 508 contracts.
Yeah, this is just a duplication, it already mentioned contract.
Okay, so it's housekeeping again.
Yeah, this is how.
Election of commission, add the language provided. The language is, oh, this was about the ties, wasn't it?
Yeah, this, under our present charter, technically, if in a November election, there's a tie vote, there has to be another special election, which would cost another $100,000. Most cities in Broward County provide for a coin toss between the two.
There's nothing better.
I'm sorry, not a
High
coin
card
toss,
win.
but, I'm sorry, selection by lots, most. Some do a coin toss, but most do a selection of lots. You put two names in a hat, and somebody picks it out. Well, what do you do? I mean, the voters have spoken, and they've said that both of these two are as qualified. So,
I let the people in the audience. Have you seen the people in the audience sometimes?
Yeah, but at least one, you know what I mean? It's. but-
I've never
But
seen
we're
anything
not,
like
but we're
that.
not,
Or it could be a
okay.
first.
But wait, because
Put it in the hat?
That's
but-
it.
But
That's
again,
exactly
that's,
I know, I know.
it's a fair way. Nobody knows what, you know.
Yeah, but this is the right way.
Well-
Have they done this on higher office, like in Congress,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Oh, sure.
This has happened?
It has happened. Has it happened in Congress?
Maybe way back.
I'm sure it has, but
Well, the other
Congress,
option is a $100,000 special election.
And then if you propose that, they
or
probably.
you could have the city commission pick. But who the hell would want to do? And then you get tied, you know, all right, so four people,
And now it's split.
it's disaster. Most cities, it's drawing a block. Coconut Creek, drawing a
That's what
block.
I just said, but he,
I can just see some guy taking all my friends and bringing them in here. You know?
Oh, it would be chaos.
yeah.
You don't wanna do that.
It would
Don't,
be-
it's, you know.
And how would you know if they were registered voters of Margate that were out there?
I'll show.
You know? I mean, you have a, you really, you have a choice, draw straws, pick, you know, lots,
Thumbs up,
whatever.
thumbs down.
Wow.
It's a toss of the coin.
The odds of that happening are
And it
fairly.
may not happen
remote.
ever, but we have to have something in the charter, apparently we have to have something in the charter that covers that in case it does happen.
Just remember to vote for yourself. That's it. That's on one vote.
Yeah,
So don't forget. Remember to vote. Remember to.
so we're,
Okay.
Put a toss in the coin.
do we have a,
Yeah.
it's not the it is not the best, but the alternatives are $100,000 special elections or the city commission. And personally, I don't want to be on the city commission that picks that from a, you know, appointing it for an open, removal of office is different. However, this is right at election time and the people are, you know, pull, you know, or call that one person who forgot to go out and vote. Which one do you want to cast? Wasn't there a movie about that? This one guy had the whole vote of the city. All right, so we
That's
got,
the final outcome, to draw the hat.
Yeah.
Yeah, they approved it. It's on the next page, actually.
Going
Okay.
lots.
yeah, they did approve it, you know.
Put your name in there twice.
Who picks it? Who picks it?
One specific.
You know what, I'll suggest this, that we get it
You can do it by
outside.
resolution, you can do it by ordinance.
I would suggest we get an outside judge or something like that to come in
Judge Judy.
that has nothing to do with the city of Margate and have them come in, you know, clerk of court something, come in and pick it for us as a courtesy.
Well, you could have the city clerk do it, you could have one.
We could, but let's, if
One
we're
city
gonna
have the
do
city
it,
attorney do it.
yeah, we're not doing
You have to
that.
put in like when it has to happen, if it happens, like at the next meeting, and who does it?
We can do that by resolution or ordinance, whatever you want.
Okay. And that's what 606 is, it's the same thing.
Well, we're still on.
No, no, we were on 5 votes, 6065, okay, so 6065, 6066.
How was it? How was it? How was it? Was it that kind of, was it the same?
What's that?
Is that the way it was, went through a tie?
No,
Yeah.
we're going for a draw of the lots.
But how was it?
It was nothing, we had nothing.
Oh,
No,
yeah.
we had, there was a special.
Oh, a special election, oh, you're right. We had a special election.
It never happened, and we didn't have to spend the money.
Okay. All right, so we have a consensus on that, okay. Article X to repeal, deleting Article X as it was transitioned from the old 1955 law.
This is housekeeping.
We don't want to keep a law from 1955, come on. Anybody get a problem?
No. What this did was, it was a transition schedule
Yeah,
from the old charter to the 1982 charter.
I know.
And
What it was.
we don't need a transition. It says, oh, the officers would stay in office and all that sort of gobbledygook. You just don't need it.
Okay.
Of course we know that. We're not writing a new charter, we're just amending the charter.
Okay, anybody, that's fine. Miscellaneous residency requirements for voting by districts. This is not changing.
It was not changed.
It was not passed to change into districts. Okay, so it's not going on the ballot or anything. So that's it for the charter review, people. Now, well, we're gonna take a few minutes. We're here. If anybody, and I know Commissioner Rizzo has some, I know I have one that I want to throw out. Not written in stone because we still have time between now and the time it goes on the ballot to have more discussions about anything that wants to be changed, if you want to bring it up at a commission meeting. Do you want to take a short break? Because I'm good, I've got my electric cigarette, I don't have to go anywhere.
Thank you guys for
Yeah.
Yes, good job.
very good.
All right, you know what, let's pull out this one that didn't get voted on, okay? This 405 removal or discharge of city manager, okay? Yeah, and basically what that does is change things from a 3-5 vote, 3-2 vote, 3-5 vote to a 4-5 vote. It didn't get voted on by the charter review, which is why we didn't discuss it, but I know that other people have wanted to discuss it. It's on the backup.
I can tell you that in the original charter adopted in 1982, it was 4/5 vote. It was changed after Sergeant Shella became city manager. He was a very divisive city manager. Essentially, it was such a response to his situation. He was such a polarizing manager that 3 commissioners essentially had to be defeated before he could be fired. And that's what happened in the 1991 election. And that's when there was they decided to change the charter as originally adopted.
I'll read into the record for Commissioner Donahue would like to ask what would be the purpose of doing this.
Well,
That again is,
yeah, and the purpose was, if you're going to have an executive professional, the whole idea is that you want to make it difficult to remove him and not be subject to the vicissitudes of politics. You can argue it each way. You could argue it the other way that says, well, if he doesn't have the faith of 3 out of 5, then,
but he only needs the faith out of 2. He
Right.
only needs the alliance out of 2. If you make it a 4-5 vote, he only needs the alliance of 2 commissioners.
Right, and
So two commissioners are really the only thing that would stop you from firing a bad, emphasis on the word bad, city manager. Two commissioners.
You just said a professional that we kind of trust. Well, wouldn't you fall into that category too? And
I do.
Joseph? And Joseph?
Yeah,
So why would it just be the city manager?
well, because the city manager is the embodiment of the administration, as much as, I mean, he sets the tenor of the administration. Don't forget, these people don't work for me. Yeah, the city clerk has a department, but it's not the police department, the fire department. I mean, yes, he has more responsibility, more could go wrong, but also, if you change the city clerk or the city attorney, it doesn't change the tenor of the city. I mean, you could to a certain extent, but when you change the city manager, it does. I can tell you how different things can be under a different city manager.
But we don't have a super majority on anything. We just want to.
But a number of cities do.
Commissioner.
A number
There's
of
nothing
cities
that would
do.
do in the city that is a 4-5 vote.
Nothing at all.
So why would we make this a 4-5?
Well, again, because this is probably
what
the
the
most
discussion is.
important decision that the city makes.
Well, no, that's not true. Then you can make the same argument that the removal of or forfeiture of office
You could.
is, okay, I'm going to go back to my
But
original
even
reason
so,
for it is two people become the majority. Two people become the majority. And let's pretend Tommy or Commissioner O'Donnell wants to get rid of Jerry, okay? All right?
I'm in.
Me too.
Yeah.
Okay, and
As
let's
of May
say,
31st.
let's say that Jerry and Commissioner Donahue have, because he's not here, have a great relationship, okay? Great relationship. There's one. Commissioner Talrico wants to get rid of him. There's three commissioners that want to get rid of him and again, I believe you have to give you have to have some sort of reason.
No,
No, you don't.
you give him a hearing, but you don't have to have a reason. He can be fired for.
Let me just weigh in for a minute. The whole, first of all, I had originally proffered this as a discussion item. And then what had happened is I withdrew that with the city clerk at the time, who was Leslie. I said, don't even put this forward to the charter review board. And it did go, I guess it did come through the notes. But the bottom line is that it's really just to ensure some stability for a professional city manager. And it's a practice that's adopted in some government agencies, and the International City Managers Association, the Florida City County Managers Association recognizes that as well, to have the ability to have a professional manager stay in place, that he or she is not at the whim of politics. And the fact is that a city manager hopefully would be astute enough to stay out of the the politics. But when you read across the state of Florida or anywhere, city managers a lot of times are removed right after an election and based on politics. And that's all this is about. If it gives you discomfort, if it gives you some concern, obviously you don't have to move forward. And I'm not suggesting you should if you get discomfort with it. But it's more about stability for a city manager. It's all it's about.
Yeah, well, we're discussing it for comfort and stability for the city commission as well.
Sure. Why not?
And I'm looking at this, okay, and I'm not sure how much we're gonna go by this, because can a commission remove another commissioner with a majority? Yes, for one, yes for another, 3 votes for another. Can the votes be needed to remove how many votes are needed to be removed for city manager? For Coconut Creek, 4/5, for Coral Springs, a majority, for North Lauderdale, 4/5. So North Lauderdale has 3 votes to get rid of a commissioner and 4/5 to get rid of a city manager. There's no consistency on those things, if you understand what I'm saying.
I understand. Like Coral Springs would be 4 to get rid of the city commissioner. And I don't know about Coconut Creek, and I don't know about
Well, no, yeah,
That would, in Coral Springs, you need four.
well, right, okay, but again, so to get rid of Commissioner Creek, we'll say 3, because it just says majority, that's the majority,
But,
not a supermajority.
well, nothing we have to supermajority,
I-
we just discussed.
Exactly, because I don't personally, again, I don't believe there is a supermajority. I believe there are 2 people that will hold, that have the power in either one of those
You keep saying
cases.
that, but I don't understand, you keep saying 2 people have the power.
Because a 3-2 vote
Yeah.
typically in our government is a passing thing.
Correct.
A 3-2 vote in these instances is not a passing thing. So that means it only takes 2 people to put a stop to that. 2 people. You only need 2 people. For a 4-5 vote, you need 1 person, basically, okay? And then that 1 person needs to grab 1 other person. And now a 2-3 vote becomes the winning
Becomes
vote.
the
The winning
the
vote.
affirmative vote.
Those 2 people become the winning vote.
I'd like to make it 4 on 4, 5,
For what?
to remove the manager.
Okay.
Let's keep it 3.
Wait. Manager 3? Manager 4? I've already said it because I don't believe 2 people should be the powerhouse of the city. So that's leaving it the same as it is now. Is a 3-2 votes what it says now, right?
Yes.
Okay, so we're leaving it a 3-2 vote on that. All right, any other, but let's go to the Civil Service Board, because that's a public condition. Huh? It's not, it's just, it's in this packet here, which is
Actually,
the charter.
that failed with 3-2 affirmative vote.
Right, but for some reason, the charter review had to be a 4-1 vote, which is why some of these
Right.
things didn't get passed,
Right.
that maybe should have gotten passed. but-
Well, that was really the only one that went, where there was a majority to change it, but it wasn't a 4/5 vote.
The Civil Service Board, and I'm gonna say this is the same as, the contract thing. Having it in our charter puts a gun to our head and says, we have to have a Civil Service Board, we cannot not have one. As opposed to, we already have it as an ordinance. Taking it off the charter gives the city and the commission the ability to do away with it or not do away with it. But because it's on the charter saying that that is one of the boards that we create, it has to be there.
What does it do? That's what I'm confused.
At this
Well,
day
can
and
we
age,
take it
It
off?
nothing.
doesn't do anything.
Can we take it off the chart?
Yeah, that's the question I'm asking,
Well,
is to vote to take, to have it on the ballot.
There's a reason it was there, and other cities use it, don't they?
Most cities have gone away from civil service.
Yeah.
And it was used
Or
for
higher, was it?
hiring,
Yeah.
and it made, what the city capacity commission did was made a streamline. It could take 6 months to get hired in the city of Margate because of the Civil Service Board.
It definitely slows it
It
down.
slows down the hiring
And
process.
understand, what's in the charter is a provision that says that the Civil Service Board has to basically hear all personnel regulations, not even approve, but they all have to go through civil service. Okay? Now, as far as them hearing appeals, that's in ordinance, okay, but understand that almost no one uses it because we have 4 unions and it has an arbitration process. So it almost never happens that someone appeals to the Civil Service Board. They go to arbitration.
And we can still have it, but
Sure.
we're just not held to the gun to our head charter, it's having it on the charter.
Quite honestly, I've been here for almost 17 years, and I have found it, first of all, it's very archaic, in my personal opinion. It has not been effective here. And the way it's established now, it's not involved in the hiring process, because we changed that.
But it used to be.
And secondly, and now what's in play, so to speak, is the ability of an employee who has a grievance, they have a personnel issue they don't want, and they have options. They have, like Gene said, they can utilize the grievance procedure that's in the collective bargaining agreement, or they can take it to civil service. The point is, even civil service is non-binding. Civil service might hear an issue, they may, and I've been here 17 years, I can count on my hand maybe 2 times in those 2 years that I can remember a couple cases, maybe 3. And ultimately, they render a decision, and honestly, they're like an investigative body, they're supposed to investigate it, and with no disrespect to anybody who's currently on the civil service board, but people who were on there previously didn't really have the experience in investigation and really have the technical or professional expertise to render decisions based upon what, like an arbitrator would. And ultimately, even if they rendered a decision, it wasn't binding. It still was up to the final decision was up to the city manager on that issue. And I found it to be very ineffective, very time consuming. And the other thing that you gotta understand is that the board is made up of a cross-section of people, someone elected by elected by, appointed by the city commission, elected by, was it the?
2 by the city commission.
By the unions?
No, 1 by the employees of the city, and 1 who is a resident of the city, and then the 5th member by the other 4.
And ultimately what happens is really, they don't really have the expertise. In the 17 years that I was here, the couple times that it actually went to them, they were coming to me and asking me, what do you know about this? Can you investigate this? Can you find out what kind of information you provide to us? It's just really a pretty outdated, archaic system in this day and age. That's how I see it.
Right.
What effect would it have if it didn't exist with people who work for the city? Is it a security blanket for them? Will they feel betrayed because they don't have a civil service board anymore?
Well, understand,
Would it
once
have that
again,
effect?
there's nothing that says that this would do away with the civil service system. As the mayor has said, it would basically say that the ordinances that are in place now could be streamlined, changed, or done away with. This simply says that the charter, we have to keep that board. That's basically.
But ultimately, where you're going is that the employees have an opportunity to utilize that venue, if they care to, on a dispute with management.
Right.
Okay? Or, not both, or they can use the process that is available to them through collective bargaining
Correct.
in their grievance. In most cases, they're going to utilize that process because ultimately they have binding arbitration, meaning that an outside arbitrator, if necessary, would review their dispute. An outside arbitrator review the dispute, both people present their sides, and ultimately it's binding arbitration on the city, the outcome.
So what's the harm of leaving?
We
have to
have to do it.
You have
to have
a board, quite honestly, that meets on a monthly basis that say they do nothing. And I mean, because there's nothing else for them to do. And it's really ineffective, in my opinion, and it's outdated, in my opinion, and it's archaic.
And of course, it becomes political. You've got a representative of the unions, of the employees, so they feel, well, I've got to protect the employee. And then you've got someone who is a resident, who also could be an employee, okay? So you've got built-in prejudices already. Like I said, this was created even prior to the 1982 chart. It was before unionization of employees. So you only had civil service to protect these employees because you weren't allowed to unionize prior when the civil service was formed.
Taking it off the charter, it does not mean we do not have to have a civil service board. leaving it on the charter means we have to have a
Also,
civil
you can
service.
take it off, but you don't have to have it, or you do have it, it doesn't either way.
If you take it off, you have a choice. If you don't take it off, you don't have a
If
choice.
it's on there, it stays. If you don't, it may not ever come back, correct? No,
Yeah, but it's already outdated now. Why?
no, I know, I'm just,
Basically,
if you,
you would have to repeal some ordinances as well to do away with the Civil Service Board. You have the option to take it out of the charter, and then you would have to change, you could still leave the ordinances and spend more time at any time and decide what you want to do. That's what I'm saying.
so if it goes before the voters, and they say, okay, no more civil service,
On the charter.
Right.
It's on the charter.
technically it's gone.
No,
Right.
no,
It's
just the charter has been changed. It doesn't change civil service unless and until you change it by ordinance.
And you have done that.
By streamlining the hiring
Right.
process.
We've done that
Well,
already.
only for
Initial hire.
Only for initial hires. For
But-
promotion, the civil service system is still in place.
Remember, you're gonna have some old school people, and I mean that with great deal of respect, who grew up in civil service, especially outside this state, okay? And they're gonna have a strong tie to civil service, you know? And because they grew up with it, and that's what they're accustomed to. But it had a little bit more meat to it than what we have in the way of civil service. And like Gene said too, it grew up in a time when there weren't, I guess even unions weren't even in play for the most part.
They weren't allowed.
So let me just understand.
Yeah.
Voters make a decision, civil service is out of the charter.
Right.
But it still does exist until we say,
It
it's
doesn't.
gone, and that would be it before the commission,
Just
public
like-
discussion, everything.
Right,
Oh,
Just
yeah.
like when you heard the issue of the hiring process, the same thing.
Right.
It just means we don't have to have a gun.
Honestly, I mean, being candid,
We can't.
trying to modernize
Well, I just want to know,
city government a little bit. That's part of what I think, that's the way I'm looking at it.
okay,
So do we have somewhat of a consensus? I wasn't counting.
yeah,
On removing the civil service board description from that, departments and everything else like that.
So it's gonna come out of the charter?
Yeah.
Total.
Just
It'll
the,
still
yeah,
be-
It'll still
it'll
exist.
still exist under ordinances.
Right.
And if you, does that need to be on the ballot question? Can you put that, I know you have 75 words, that it
Well-
still exists under the ordinances? So people
Yeah,
understand that.
if that's gonna be a separate, sure.
I just think that people need to understand that it's the have to or the have not to, really is the question. Do we have to do this?
Right.
All right, anything else? Commissioner, you want to do 4 or 5 discussion on removal of commissioners?
That's what we did.
Oh, I know, but I
said you
thought
meant
you wanted to talk more about that, on what wanted to be dead.
What?
For the forfeiture of office, did everything you wanted to do on that?
That's fine.
Okay. Anything else in the charter? Anybody have any? City manager?
Ma'am.
City attorney? City clerk? And let me say this right now, because Joseph was not the city clerk at the time, and the recommendations that are in here were the recommendations from Leslie. I did ask Joseph to look at things. Is there anything that you came up with that you would like to have changed as a
Not at
city
this
clerk?
time, no.
Okay, so you got the consensus on what to throw, and you'll give
Yeah.
it to us as they're gonna be on the ballot?
Yeah, I will draft them up. We'll send
All right,
copies.
now, before we go, I want to ask if there's anybody in the public that wants to bring anything up. Again, we can do this all the way up till it has to be put on the ballot.
Right,
We
the second
discuss these things. If anybody's got anything they want,
We've got 2 ordinances, 2 readings.
2 readings for it and everything else.
Right.
Okay, so basically, so we can still, like you said, if you want to go through the charter, or if the residents want to come up and bring something, they should have done it at the charter review meetings, but we know they didn't do that, but they may want to come up, and we'll give them that opportunity between now and the time it goes on the ballot. Any other thing?
Thanks again, guys. You guys.
Workshop discussed.
The only thing,
Dismissed.
Madam Mayor, the only thing that I'd like to say is,
Yes.
you just looked at this evening, I'd like to remind you
We've had it for a
that,
couple of weeks, and
yeah, I'd like to remind you that we worked on this diligently for 6 months.
right?
And anytime, I'm speaking for all of us, anytime you wish to ask us why or how, or we're at your disposal.
Well, and that's why we had the workshop tonight, was to get, that's why we had Joyce here to give us the thing, as far as, you know, if you guys have a question or you want to throw something in now before everybody leaves, I'll reopen it. But that's why, I think everything but maybe one or two went through consensus on most of that.